begin.
Welcome to Conversations with Melissa. Conversations with Melissa is part of Renify's Experts and Influencers series. Renify provides practical, research-based advice and courses and peer support with a focus on the underlying drivers of our ADHD behavior through courses like budgeting for the ADHDer, home organizing for the ADHD lifestyle, and of course, the ADHD book club. To name just a few, we provide a holistic program that serves to help you thrive with ADHD, not in spite of it. Follow our YouTube channel for additional resources, and I'm going to put that in the chat, and visit renify.com to learn more about what we have to offer. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the chat. And then thank you, Jessica, for being here. Oops, whoosh, come right back. Here we are.
I'm a name I'm called actually outside of my own. So
it's like I answer to Michelle. All right. So Jessica and I know each other in real life. We're not strangers. We are friendly acquaintances. So Jessica, in her highly varied career, has done everything from developing and teaching self-defense classes to working as an event planner, an entertainment agent, a computer teacher, a personal assistant, and a booth babe at science fiction and fantasy conventions. I came to know her as a writer and able presenter, warm, funny, and resourceful. She has a knack for taking complex scientific concepts and making them clear and understandable with humor and zeal. So, welcome.
It's really great to be here. I'm super excited. I was super excited when you invited me to be on the program with you. This is conventions and convention interactions is one of my favorite topics. I love going to conventions. I just got back from a convention yesterday, in fact. And so I had a chance to refine and look at, how different people interact at that convention. It was super awesome to get that refresher and to know that I was coming here today to talk about the topic. Made me super excited. And so I appreciate the invite.
Well, we are lucky to have you. And as I was reading through the book very recently to prepare for our conversation, and there was some, you're talking about the gamers in this book, so they're fans and fandom and different types of fandom. And I feel like any convention you go to, there's different constituencies, right? There's the vendors who are selling. At the conference that I'm hoping you're helping us prepare for, there are ADHD coaches different from psychologists. There are mental health people, so nurses and doctors. There's still people selling stuff, everything from vitamins to video games, all sorts of. And then there's a bookstore for authors in the ADHD arena. Then when you look at the people who came, they're also doctors, coaches, ADHDers, parents of ADHDers, teachers, or occupational therapists. There's a lot of different constituencies. So I really feel like this may look like it's specific to this kind of convention, but I think it has legs to speak about other gatherings of people with a lot of different what they came to get out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting because when I initially wrote this book, I had primarily been going to science fiction fantasy conventions. And since then, I have actually started to go to more industry conventions. And like the convention I was at last week was an authors convention, focused on, teaching authors different skills for marketing and promotion of books and that sort of thing. And with that, one of the things that I've seen is that, in fact, while this particular book is aimed more at the science fiction fantasy community, the concepts follow through. The concepts work in just about any situation, barring perhaps the cosplay section. Although I will say I was at a solar convention and there are still people who cosplay at solar conventions. So I was surprised to find that out, but it does happen.
It's funny because that was one of the few parts I went, all right, this is not going to be really transferable.
It's not
I do.
what you expect necessarily.
They're big costumes and people with big duffel bags or schlepping things. There's some things about the cosplay that the advice transfers, even if it's not exactly apples, it's still a piece of fruit. Maybe not apples to apples. Um, so let's jump in. Let's jump in. I really like, so first off, I like that you have a gamification and you talk about Dungeons and Dragons and use that as a reference, and the idea of this charisma that maybe in game universe it has mixed bag, but in real life it sure helps to have some charm. And early, very early in the book, you talk about creating your conference survival kit list.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's okay, how about we start there?
Yeah, that's a great place to start because that's something that you actually do before you ever leave for the conference. And, there are definitely, particularly if you're going for a 3-day, 4-day, week-long conference, depending on, how long you're going to be traveling, conferences are intense, right? There's a lot of stuff going on. And so it's really important that you have things that will help you prepare for that convention. So you want to take your basics. You want to take, if you are ibuprofen or aspirin or, whatever type of thing you use for headaches and for sore muscles, because at conferences, you're traditionally walking around a lot. Also, you want to make sure that you're taking comfortable shoes. Comfortable shoes are really key if you're going to be on your feet all day. You don't want to get, a quarter of the way through the day and really regret your footwear choices. That is not a good way to go. And then if you do, you will, of course, have to take more of the ibuprofen, aspirin painkillers, which, is not always the best idea if you can avoid that. You want to make sure that you have things in your preparation kit that are going to help you get through the day. A water bottle. It's very important to stay hydrated at these events. The event that I was just at in Vegas, Vegas is much drier than it is here in Southern California. And I found that I went through 2 or 3 bottles of water or, filling up my water bottle a day just to stay hydrated enough to function. So bringing a reusable water bottle with you is a great thing. Then you also want to think about things like power bars. If you're, I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people who forgets to eat. Like I forget to eat in the middle of the day. I get to 4 o'clock. I'm like, why do I feel so awful? And it's because I forgot to eat. If I'm carrying a power bar or, some other snack with me, then it's much easier because I'll get to that point. I'm like, oh, it's noon. I need to eat something. I need to put something in me so that I can get through the rest of the day. So packing, enough power bars or snacks of some kind to get you through there is going to be super important. And then I'm going to go back to comfortable shoes again, because I cannot stress enough. Comfortable shoes are so important. So important. I know it's not always fashionable, but, really, I promise you, you're going to want your comfortable shoes. And then think about things too, like conventions. We're all much more aware of this now because we just went through COVID-19, of course, so everybody's much more aware of the spread of different, transmissible things. In the science fiction, fantasy community conventions, we call it the con crud. It is the unidentified illness that you get after the convention or sometime during the convention, which is never fun. But it's always a good idea to pack a little bit of cold medication to bring with you just in case. It doesn't have to be like full bottles of the stuff, just a couple of doses to get you through, in case something like that comes up. And also masks. It is actually, particularly after having just gone through the pandemic, wearing a mask in a crowded space is a totally acceptable thing to do 95% of the time. And it, of course, prevents the spread of COVID, but it also prevents you from getting con crud. And if you can avoid getting con crud, that's a good thing, generally speaking. I don't know.
I liked your list, and people in the chat are already saying that thing about something to eat, and I like to carry like a kind bar, a nut bar, because it gives me one more hour that I can really pay attention to things. It can be a substitute lunch if I've forgotten or I missed the window of when the food was available, but a nut bar. And yeah, those things can be in your suitcase and you can bring them with you and have them ready to go. This is another thing that is in my kit is a lip balm. Doesn't have to be this particular brand, but I know I'm talking to more people and my mouth will get dry and I therefore want some lip balm.
I
In my
100% agree
kit.
with that. Lip balm, and also if you are going to be talking a lot, if you're a presenter or somebody who does actually socialize quite a bit, throat lozenges.
Yeah, it's usually those a little tin of mints, right? Those little mints. I like them. I like the Altoid mints, but you know what it is you need, right? And you can never count on something being at the store or the hotel store, or maybe it's going to be very expensive there, or you don't want to take the time to go get it. So this idea of this not little, but a checklist, and then you've got at the top of it Pepto-Bismol, which I had tummy troubles and heartburn problems in my youth. And so I always wanted to have some sort of stomach medicine in my emergency, what I brought with me kit. Absolutely.
That's one you can't always find at the hotel stores either. So definitely recommend bringing that with you.
Yeah. And, there's a lot of ADDers in the room with our prescription medications. If you're traveling, there's some things you put in your travel bag so that if something, God forbid, your suitcase gets lost, you still have it with you. So I would say personally, my prescription medicine, that stomach medicine, and my jewelry and some of my electronics are in my case. So carry-on's going to be heavy, but if everything else gets lost, I still have all the stuff in that bag. So maybe some underpants in there.
I always pack one extra shirt in that bag. But
I see people are saying Adderall makes my mouth dry. Yeah. So knowing ourselves and what we're going to need, really important. I love how much you underline the comfortable shoes. And if you didn't bring, because I'm very short and I like to be tall as much as I can be, the moleskin or some other shoes that are, you have fluffy slippers in here, right? Something for your hotel room. Yeah.
Fluffy slippers for the end of the day, particularly if you've walked, 10 miles during the convention during the day. Going back to your hotel room with the fluffy slippers is heaven. Just absolute heaven. So, and moleskin, if you didn't or opted for not having the comfortable shoes, helps out amazingly well. Moleskin actually works significantly better than Band-Aids.
Oh, yes.
If you get blisters. So, definitely worth investing in some of that. Particularly, or if you're a presenter and you have to be, in heels or less than comfortable shoes. So.
And we have from the audience, Ricola Original. Oh, I used to go for those Ricolas. Ricola. Yep, an old fave for sure.
Those are good ones for sure. And so packing list early. I agree with that one.
And then you've got nail clippers and, a copy of this book as in jest, but not a bad idea, right? But I like to have a safety pin. I find I tear my clothes or some button falls off. There's just these things that don't happen at home that happen when you're away from home. And you mentioned a nail kit.
And also
right. Something on my nails that goes wrong is just, it never stops bothering me. So having a little emery board or nail file or a clipper, it's in my makeup kit. I always have that with me. So yeah, great.
Yeah. No, I have to say that one is important for me too, because if something goes wrong with my nails, I find that I bite them. If they're not like appropriately in the right shape, I will sit there and chew on them until they are. And that's not really something you want to do. So
I knew there was something I liked about you. Yes, I do this. That is my default as well. And then you mentioned some of these other things like your chargers, extra chargers.
For sure, that chargers, cables, anything you're going to need to power your electronics. Those little battery banks that they make these days are super useful and pretty easy to carry around. You get maybe one charge out of them. But that way you're not sitting with like 1% on your battery for your phone. It's the I don't know about other people, but having the little red bar on my phone is way more anxiety inducing for me than like a lot of other things. So being able to keep that up and making sure that I have the ability to charge that, because you can't be guaranteed to find a plug somewhere.
There's sometimes, but this is let's not depend on the kindness of strangers. Let's be ready in case absolutely everything that could go wrong does go wrong. Right now I have a charger. Just if I need it, I have it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I was walking through the airport the other day, and I was looking for a place to plug my phone in because I had forgotten my charger, which is not a good thing. And I had noticed that somebody had taken plug-shaped stickers, and they had put plug-shaped stickers in places to make you think they were outlets, and they were in fact not outlets. And that just seems mean.
Yes, what is happening around here? Yes, we can get in that place, especially if we are, highly focused, tuned in. I need a charger, and then you see this thing which would have just been visual clutter at any other moment, but now it's vexing. You're vexed. Where's a real outlet? Right? We just get to maximum upset that way too. All right, just trying to follow the book. I have real notes for the questions, but I was kind of compelled by how you had organized the book to stick with some of it. So right after that, you talk about the social niceties for everyone. And I'm on page 6 towards the bottom. I know I'm going to quote your book back to you. I feel like I'm in a Nora Ephron movie, but here we are. It's a good idea to remember that you should treat people as you wish to be treated. As a second note, avoiding excessive use of swear words and obscenities among strangers is also a good idea. The use of such language helps to create a hostile atmosphere and does not improve the convention. Just really good food for thought. We can get very emotional, and we want to express the big emotions, that who wants to be near us or talk to us or make friends when we are cursing like a sailor. Yeah. I just thought that was a beautiful, magnifique piece of advice.
It's one thing to do it in private with your friends that know you and that are used to you, but when you're in a public space and you're surrounded by people that don't know you, it can make people very uncomfortable. And it can definitely raise tension levels in, groups of people who are not even necessarily interacting with you, because it's not something that they're used to being around. And so being aware of that and moderating your own speech, is very important in those settings. And also if it's something that gets loud or out of hand, depending on the nature of the convention, that is something that can have you escorted to elsewhere in the convention, if not removed.
If not removed. Yeah, it's a bad day when you're meeting the security.
You don't want to meet the security if you don't have
to. It's not how I thought this was going to work. And then I see some great stuff in the chat, which I want to underline. One, because it's great advice. Even better, bring cables and other connectors and supplies that you could use to help out your friends, because people forget stuff, and you got to be a friend to make a friend. That's a Melissa-ism. Someone's taking a small notebook with them to hold phone numbers in case their phone dies, so they can still be able to have access to some of the things that are in the phone. And someone else says their phone can wirelessly charge other phones, and they like to do that. So this is, noticing this community in the chat where people are supportive and helping each other and recognize that they have gaps and that other people like them have gaps and that they're willing to step in. These are the types of people you want to make friends with.
That is very true. And also a good way to make friends is to also be helpful and willing to help out other people. If someone is having an issue and you can help them out, then even if you don't know them and you're in this environment at a convention, it's a good thing to do. And, allows you another avenue of meeting people. And it's good that there's a very supportive community here. It's definitely a much more fun, enjoyable event if it is, filled with good supportive people.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, that's for sure. So still keeping sort of where the book was going, there was this hygiene section that came next, and I loved that it had a little formula. Of course, I already had made the expanded dance version of it for myself, but it was 621 for hygiene. Can you explain it a little bit? This
Sure.
hygiene formula?
Absolutely. So when attending any sort of event, really, that's a multi-day event, it's important to stay aware of yourself. And so there is a formula, 621, at least 6 hours of sleep a night. This particular first number can vary a little bit. 6 is sort of my sweet spot. Some people need more, some people need a little bit less, but like 6 is a nice sweet spot. 2, at least 2 meals during the day. If that could be breakfast and dinner, that could be lunch and dinner, that could be, well, pretty much those are the combinations. But breakfast and lunch, but at least 2 meals a day, to make sure that you have enough fuel for your body to get through the day without being hangry, without being, falling down with headaches and whatnot. You want to have food. You have to fuel your body to have a good time and be able to learn things at these events. And the last one is the very most important one, and it is only one. You need 1 shower every day. It is super important to take 1 shower every day. And there's a number of reasons for that. Taking a shower makes you more pleasant to be around for other convention goers. Body odor is unfortunately a thing, and we all have it. And if you shower once a day, you tend to have less of it. Also, showering once a day helps remove the germs from the convention that you collect during the day, whether you take it at night or in the morning. It can also help you stay healthier. But that 1 shower every day is very important. Excessive use of perfume, back in the late 90s, patchouli was the thing, covering yourself in patchouli. Those are not substitutes for the 1 shower every day. It just get in the shower, a little bit of water over you, a little bit of soap, it's all good. But 621 to help you remember, what that formula is: 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals during the day, and 1 shower every day.
Yeah, I looked at that and I thought this is a great starting point. I have been working on sleep. We have a sleep accountability group at Renify that meets once a week. We're in the middle of that series. And so I know 7. 7's the magic. I don't need to fire anyone when I've had 7 hours of sleep. Right? So 7 hours is my minimum. 2 meals, that sounds good, but I'd add 2 snacks into that. I have to have some nut bar in the middle of the day and something later. So that would be sort of 7, 2 plus 2 for food. And then on the one hand, yes, a shower. But also maybe brushing my teeth more than once in the day. Like, go back into my room. It's a great I need to go and have some teeth brushing time, which could also be some quiet time.
Also very important, yes, particularly at conventions where you are talking to a lot of people. The brushing your teeth more than once a day is much appreciated by everyone. So
yeah. This chat is very funny. One hand, I helped introduce one person who didn't know anybody. On the other hand, you know somebody a long time. You're like, hey, we need a volunteer. Go over there and help me. Yeah. So, but having some sort of short paradigm that you know what you're going to do for yourself for self-care and knowing what you need. So 6, even in this area where you talk about this hygiene formula, about the 6, there's some people for whom that's 3. you know.
That is absolutely true. And certainly in my younger years, it was 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night and I was fine. But, as I've gone up that hill, as it were, I need more sleep these days. So
Yeah. Yeah. Getting more sleep, everything goes better. We've had a little bit of sleep. Don't short shrift on that. Yeah. So I love that those things were near each other, and I appreciate this thing about the showers because if you short shrifted yourself on sleep, let's pretend you went, hey, 6, 5, okay, either one, and then you wake up abruptly and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, what's the time? Is the free breakfast still available? I've got to run, running underneath the water in the shower, still a better option to show up wet than to show
sure.
up smelly.
Show up smelly. And I will say, the other thing to keep in mind, so not everybody can get 6 hours of sleep a night or 7 hours of sleep a night. It is the recommended.
Mhm.
If you can't sleep, if you only get 2 hours of sleep for some reason, but you have to go to the convention the next day, there's no opportunity for sleeping more. Yes, absolutely, the shower. Please take time for the shower. Also, if you haven't been able to sleep enough, eat more.
Mm.
Carbs will keep you going. Calories will keep you going. It's not a long-term solution, but for, one day at a convention, you need to power through. Eat more than you would expect to, up your calorie intake. Don't make it all purely sugar.
Oh yeah, because the crash after that is always extra fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure there's some protein in there. But if you haven't been able to sleep, or you do short yourself on sleep, the next day you're going to want to eat more so that you have more calories, more fuel, essentially, to burn in that case. But don't make it all donuts and pastries. Make sure you get some protein in there. A sandwich or an actual meal will help you on those days where you do have to short yourself on sleep.
And to have that self-knowledge, that contingency. All right, if X, then Y, right? Oh, so I know when I went to bed at 3 in the morning that tomorrow I really need to eat. We have these phones that we can put reminders on, 300 ways till Tuesday, so that we don't have to hold it in our mind, which is where things tend to get lost if you're an ADHD, and also if you're not, but you didn't sleep enough, you still will have memory issues remembering it.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah. And then I see in the chat, we're used to working from home right now, right? So being IRL in real life means showering, combing our heads, and wearing our pants. Yes.
It's a good idea to wear pants.
Good idea to wear pants. All right. So I liked how these things all sort of flowed together. And then you had some different things about space, personal space, the bathroom, the phone. Let's talk about I'm in the middle of two thoughts. Sorry. It's like, do I want to talk about chasing the panelist who just ran out of the panel at the end into the bathroom, or do I want to ask you about cell phone etiquette? So let's talk about bathroom etiquette first. Let's go there. We're in the public bathroom. We see a so-and-so. Look, Ari Tuckman, the author of that book I love, is in the men's room with me. I didn't get to ask that question.
Well,
good time.
No, that would not be the appropriate time. So there was a TV show that came out. It was actually crowdfunded. It was called Con Man, that Alan Tudyk produced it and starred in it. And it was about convention goers and attending conventions, but kind of from a humorous angle. And in one particular episode, he is a TV star. He is attending a convention, and he's running between panels. He has to go to the bathroom. He stops in the bathroom to do his business, and somebody recognizes his voice, as he's in the bathroom, and slides him a script under the door to read. This is a wildly big thing that you would not do. That is not appropriate behavior. And, and then somebody else slides something under for him to autograph for him. No, wait till, like, the presenters are people too. They have to go to the bathroom sometimes. It's a bodily function. We all have to do it. Let them have their 5 minutes of peace to take care of their business. They're not in the bathroom to answer questions. They want to, do their thing. And, approaching them after a panel is fantastic. While they're in the panel, if they're in the hallway outside, going between panels is a fine time to talk to somebody. When they're in the restroom, that's sort of a private bubble space. They have their private bubble, you have your private bubble. Those bubbles should not interact in general while you're in the bathroom. And this also sort of leads into the phone thing. If you're going into a bathroom, public restroom, if you're in a single unit, door closed, there are no other stalls in there, you can talk on your phone if you want, I guess, while you're in the bathroom. It's a little weird, but, do your thing. But if you're in a restroom that has multiple stalls or multiple urinals, multiple people in there at the same time, that is probably the time to not be having a conversation on your phone. For any number of reasons. One, it's a little bit gauche, rude to the other people in the bathroom. They probably don't want to overhear your conversation. It can make them uncomfortable. You may not want to share the personal details of whatever you're actually talking about to the rest of the world that might be in there with you. But then also think about it's a little bit of a sanitary issue. If you're in a bathroom and you've got a phone and you're doing your thing and you've got a phone right next to your face and you need your hands, like, that's kind of questionable. You're going to want to hang up that phone, wash your hands before you touch your phone again. Again, because con crud is a thing and you want to stay healthy during and after the convention. And you want to make sure that you're doing the best to minimize spreading those germs around, even to yourself, and so making sure that you're keeping things that are close to your face, germ free. is probably a good idea, but also as a courtesy to the other people that are in the restroom with you.
Absolutely. Well, I think let's take the phone issues. Let's take more phone spoken and unspoken phone rules, right? So we're in a line, right? We're in a line. Let's say we're in a line for food, right? It's one thing if I'm talking to somebody that I'm going to go meet and I'm picking up food. What do you want? They have salads, right? Another thing, if I've got it on speaker, right? Yeah. And then a third thing, if it has I'm not talking to anybody about the food and it's my outside voice, right? There's some things around. So let's say more things about phone when you're in line, or other phone etiquette things that are maybe not spoken out loud, the unspoken rules.
Okay, so generally speaking, when you are in a public space and you're in line to get food, you're in line or waiting for a panel, you're in the hallway and there's a bunch of people around. I highly recommend earbuds, first off, or headphones of some kind, so that you are not broadcasting your entire conversation to everyone within shouting distance. But you definitely should not have your phone on speaker in those situations. You want to, at the very least, be holding it up to your ear. Generally speaking, if you're in line for food and you're asking somebody, hey, what do you want me to order you? Okay, yes, that's totally fine. Although I do actually find sometimes it's easier to text because then you can read what exactly they said. And if it's loud where you are, you may not be able to hear what they said to you. So texting is a great option in those situations as well. But, that kind of conversation would be totally normal for that scenario. Watching Facebook videos or TikTok reels on your phone with no headphones on while you're in line with the volume up is also kind of rude. And is also very distracting for the people around you if they're trying to figure out what they're doing or making their own plans or trying to figure out lunch, particularly in scenarios where people are easily distracted. That could be a problem for them. They may not be able to conduct whatever business they're trying to conduct, whether that's ordering food or figuring out where they're supposed to go next, if they're being distracted by, the person next to them's cell phone with videos of Wednesday Addams doing her dance, or similar.
I will say I did have one year where I was picking up food and they had box lunches, but they were clear. They were in a clear container. And it was much faster to take cell phone pictures of the food and then text it to people, especially people who had food allergies or very specific food needs. Like you think a salad's going to be the right thing, but it had cheese on it. That ruined it. So rather than buy the thing and find out no one can eat it, that sometimes an image is worth 1,000 words, right? These are the salads, is there one you want? But phone etiquette, terrifically helpful to, even if in the moment when we're there, things come up, that we gave it some thought in advance. And I love how you've got the shorthand for, you could get sick from here, that con crud is an excellent shorthand. It kind of gives you some carte blanche to wear your mask, wash your hands, a lot of self-care things around not getting that.
And having done conventions for any number of years, COVID notwithstanding, con crud is just like, it's a nasty bug, because it's had time to build with all the people there. And, at the end of it, it's unpleasant. So no matter what form it takes, it's never good. So yeah, anything you can do to keep yourself from that and do the self-care necessary to keep yourself healthy, highly important.
The other thing that was interesting about reading this idea of the cons versus our convention is or conference is that there are VIP level, hey, the speakers all have a special speaker restroom, and that's not really true in the at the conference. And so even more so to recognize the unspoken rules about how to be in the bathroom, but thinking about the powder room, the bathroom, the restroom in other ways. Oh, this is a time that could be quiet for me. Do I want to find the alternate bathroom where there's never a line that's one floor up and behind something or the other so people don't know it? Maybe that's my favorite bathroom to go to because it could be quiet in there. And you start to get little habits, your habits for the hotel or the convention, and to think about your self-care, your needs, how are you going to manage those, and what are they? What do you need? There's something in here. Oh, Richard put something in around your phone should not be out, especially around flushing.
he is entirely correct there. There was a Mythbusters episode about that many years ago as well, and it's disturbing once you've watched it.
It is. I saw that one.
Very disturbing. So
let's talk about self-care a little bit more. Alone time, quiet time, breaks. It's not, maybe people can remember to do a little self check-in. Hey, how am I right now? Or maybe you just notice yourself at somebody near you and you think, hey, this is not how I usually am. Maybe I need something. Do you have any thoughts, advice around that?
Actually, I do. So conventions are hectic. There's a lot going on. They can be very overstimulating depending on, where you fall in the extrovert introvert scale of things. But a lot of them are also broken up into 45-minute or hour-long panel sessions. So you You have a panel, you have another panel, you have another panel, you have another panel, you have another panel. There's always a break between panels. And so if you're in a panel and you're going and you're enjoying yourself and you're at this panel, that's great. At the end of the panel, you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get between where you need to go to the next one. Take a breath, take a moment to just, okay, how am I doing? Do I need food? Do I need water? Am I feeling lightheaded? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling okay? I might be totally fine. Take a moment between the panels to just breathe for a second. You're not going to be able to see everything no matter what is going on. You cannot possibly go to everything. That's I learned that lesson over again this past week. You will not be able to see everything at a convention, period, full stop. So it's okay to take a breath and take a moment to check in with yourself and be like, okay, where am I? What do I need? And the end of a panel session is a really good time to do that because it's a natural break in things. If you are one of those people who go to the convention just to hang out with your friends and you're there all day and you might go to panel sessions, but really you're there to hang out and talk to people and meet up with people that you see, once a year, twice a year, your tribe. Okay, cool. Your tribe is going to know that sometimes you need to step back and take a moment. It's okay. They're not going to be mad at you. They're not going to be upset. They're really not. They want you to be okay because they're your friends. And so if you need to just step out of the group for a moment and be like, okay, I'm getting a little too much, overstimulated. Hey guys, I'm going to go take 5 minutes in the quiet room. Whether that's an actual quiet room. I know that some conventions do actually have quiet rooms to go in so that you can de-stimulate. I don't know if that's a word. But so that you can re-find your center, and bring yourself back to what you need as your normal. Or if it's, for me, a lot of times it's actually stepping into a bathroom, closing a stall door and just taking a moment to be like, there is nobody in my immediate 4-foot space for 5 minutes. That's okay too. And doing those things that you need to do to keep yourself sane and healthy and happy and enjoying the convention, because you are there to enjoy the convention. And if you're not enjoying it, then you need to step back for a moment and evaluate what is going on so that I can enjoy the things going on. And if that's 5 minutes away from people, if that's going up to your room to take a nap, if that's, oh, hey, I forgot to eat lunch, I should probably go find some food. Like, it's important to make sure that you are checking in with yourself on that and remembering to do that. And, or alternately set an alarm. Set an alarm for noon, 3, 5, whatever your normal schedule is with yourself, to check in and be like, oh, no, I'm good. I can keep going. Or, hey, I need to take a moment,
Usually in transit these days, the last 20 years with my partner. And so sometimes his needing to take a break. Oh, he wants to go. I'll go up to the room because he wants one. Oh, and magically it's a break for me. We do like to bring our music speakers with us, and then it's totally decompressed. Now we've got this space that's it's got a door on it, and we're playing some music and, out of those uncomfortable shoes or whatever else, slip into something more comfortable. But I know it seems so counterintuitive. I came to get this stuff during the day. What am I going to take a nap for? And it's like, well, you're a finite resource. Your attention is finite. So you're going to need to, you either choose or your body chooses for you because it's out. It's having a meltdown or it's sleeping. So that stress management kind of idea of what do I need and what's available. And maybe you already have a go-to. Like, I love if you're a fluffy slippers person, then bring your go-to fluffy slippers with you. That's in your book. Yeah.
I'm very much a fluffy slippers kind of person. So I have a variety of different kinds that I bring with me depending on the convention. And once they're on, like, that's the evening. So
yeah, now you're on the And that's for us. I fuzzy slippers, but the music does do something where it gives my head's out of whatever else I was doing. I can just, it's a immediate mood booster for me.
Mhm.
Um, and then Rick put something great in the chat here. You know, we're a bunch of codependents, right? If one of us steps out, then 5 other people start talking about what's wrong, and soon everybody's concerned, and one follows you to, are you okay? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, nature called, or I'm hungry, or I realized I left my glasses in the other room. And that's another thing to put on that list, you know, spare pair of glasses.
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty important. And also, as you say, for a group of codependents, it's okay that when you're going to take your 5 minutes out, be like, hey, I'm going to take my 5 minutes out. Does anybody else need to take 5 minutes out? How about we reconvene down here in, 15 minutes? Uh,
Mhm.
and make it a group thing where everybody takes a few minutes away, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get right back to having a good time.
Yeah, you know, just the beginning of what you're saying there reminds me, the first time I went to an ADHD conference, it was in Detroit. And we knew some people my husband had done some group coaching with. So that was who we were going to eat dinner one night with. So we're meeting and I'm not diagnosed. He's diagnosed at this point. And we meet in the hotel lobby, someplace where there's seating. Every person, including myself, went back up to their room because they didn't have what they needed to go to dinner, or they had the wrong shoes on. That was me. Or twice. Every person went back up to their room twice. And so to have some patience for yourself and your palsies, that however it is you're still having fun, it's all working out, you know, some grace for people to go up to their room because they've got the wrong shoes, or they don't have a sweater, or they forgot their wallet, or whatever the thing is. ADDers forget things.
That is very true. And if you are in that type of group and you are just, oh my God, I'm dying of hunger, why can't everybody get their stuff at the same time? That's also a good time for the candy bar that you packed in your purse or wallet or snack that you have with you to get you through the extra 10 minutes of everybody needs to go back to the room because they forgot stuff, because people are people, and you know people forget things.
Yeah.
Having grace for that, being aware that that is something that does happen, and taking measures to be able to deal with it in a graceful and fun situation, and you're still having fun because you're still with your friends.
Yeah, I think people can get caught up in their expectations of how they're supposed to be spending their time, right? That hanging out in the lobby with a dozen people, that, hey, this is what I came here for, but isn't it?
I mean, I hate the phrase supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, supposed to be is it's defeating. I'm supposed to be attending this speaker conference, but I'm having a really great conversation with this person where I'm learning so much more and having that personal connection. But I'm not going to beat myself up over the supposed to be attending this lecture when I'm actually getting a lot from this conversation that I'm having right here and now. It's supposed to be is just a defeatist, like, beat yourself up kind of word. No, I'm here, I'm in the present, I'm having a good time, and I am doing what I want to be doing right now, not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Great attitude, great place to come to this. Is it, on the one hand, we are coming to hear the experts, some of them, and it is about community. There's so much we can learn from peers, from other people with their own life experiences and how they solve that problem. And just also looking at the chat, there's people who are saying, oh, get your COVID vaccine. Don't forget, give yourself some time to get it before you get on your plane. Don't forget this, that, the other. And there's so many knowledgeable people who will help us remember the things we need or want. Because the ADD brain always wants to problem solve in the new and never wants to think, how did I solve this before? But when you talk to your friends, they go, you have a headache? Did you take some ibuprofen? Look, I kept it in my kit with me. Would you like some? So it's helpful to talk to people for sure. Yeah, that is what we came for, was the community.
The community making connections. And you know what? The speakers also hang out at the bar. So you can sometimes meet them later and still talk to them and have connection and real connection with them. So remember, they're people too.
Yeah, there was one year I was co-chair, and Ari's were introducing something, and it was a keynote in the morning, and he said something offhand about not adapting to the time and getting up very early in the morning and being at the hotel gym, and he was not joking. You could still get some one-on-one time with a speaker if you go to the hotel gym early.
Yep.
Yeah. I see something in the chat, and it reminds me that I had this on my things to ask you. So memories of getting autographs or photographs or selfies only last so long. Notes you took while listening might last longer, which brings me to my question, which was photography etiquette. Permission? How does that work in the convention universe? People are in cool costumes, so there's probably more tolerance for photography in that arena.
Well, so in the science fiction fantasy convention arena, there are people in costumes. They're expecting to have their photos taken. In that scenario, while they are expecting to have their photos taken, it is always polite to ask first. Mostly so that they can get in a good pose, or if you want to pose with them, they're usually happy to accommodate those kinds of things. And so that you don't catch them at a weird, like, I've got a hamburger shoved in my face while you're taking pictures of me. Like, that's not cool when somebody's in costume and they want to actually remain in costume. Now, at other types of conventions, it is also still appropriate to ask, or be like, hey, I want to take a group photo. Everybody gather in that wants to be in the photo. That gives people the option who don't want to be in the photo to get out of the way. And then you can get your photo with your peeps that you want, or doing a selfie with the entire group, same kind of thing. Hey, I want a group selfie because we're having such a good time and I want to remember everybody. Come get in the selfie with me. If they want to be in the selfie, great. If they don't want to be in the selfie, they can move out of the way. Another thing that I've seen a lot is when attending talks by speakers, people will take pictures of the slides. And sometimes, usually if a speaker doesn't want you to take pictures of the slides, they will say so in advance. I have had a lot of times where speakers will see people taking pictures of the slides and say, hey guys, by the way, these slides will be available afterwards, so you don't have to take pictures. It depends on the conference whether that's available or not. I do find, generally speaking, that if a speaker or presenter doesn't want you to take pictures of the slides, they will tell you in advance. So it's usually okay to take pictures of those slides, take pictures of the presenter while they're up there presenting. And depending on if they do this for, if they do presentations for a living, they may actually appreciate you taking a picture and posting it on social media, and tagging them in it, just because that's one way that, people can see, hey, this guy was presenting here. Maybe I want them for my convention, depending on what type of convention it is. But really the key for photography is pretty much just ask. I don't know if you're going to have children at your convention.
Every so often, but
generally speaking, I would avoid taking photos of children and posting them on social media unless you are personally friends with their parents and know that it's okay. Minors get into that kind of weird area of, are their parents okay with this? Are they not okay with this? And a lot of parents want to keep their kids' faces off of social media.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Boy, the thinking on that has turned to 180.
Yeah, it has.
All right. That was very thorough. I appreciate it. We are at the hour mark. We are not done with our conversation. We have some meaty topics still left. Just to hint at what those might be. Reading the room, soft no. Etiquette maybe for panels, depending. Let's see if people want that one. harassment, what to do if you see something. So those are topics that are still on my list of questions to ask. I'm going to take just a couple minutes to do a little thank you to our host, Renify, and then I'll come right back to this engaging, informative conversation. Just a short break to get to know Renify. Renify, at Renify, we teach about the underlying drivers of our behavior, and that knowledge leads to better decisions, and better decisions lead to an improved quality of life. Visit Renify, that's RENA, F as in Frank, I.com, and discover how you can experience financial wellness. We have a quick start guide for newly diagnosed and a free Facebook self-care challenge that we do each week. I'm going to put some links to those in the chat. When you sign up for Renify, you get access to all the Renify courses, and some of those are pre-recorded. 3 times a week, we do co-working exercise with friends, sometimes known as PT with pals. And that's just 30 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we follow that with another short group of guided meditation together, which is another 30 minutes of meditating and processing that together. There is a sleep accountability group that meets once a week right now. There is plenty of accountability and body doubling sessions throughout the week. Open office hours with our own Rick Webster, so that is coaching included in your membership. And many, many different courses with a focus on finances, organization, decluttering, in 6-week heats. So if you were a Renify member, those things would be available to you. Next week, my guest is Stuart Cohen. He is a travel expert and also an ADHD coach. And so we will be doing more things that have to do with having a good travel experience to the conference, but also timely because, hey, probably have to travel for the holidays to see our family and maybe have Thanksgiving or some other important meal with them. So that is upcoming. All right, right back to our conversation. Thank you for your patience. Let's go to that meaty question around identifying the soft no and then trying it on for ourselves. How do you know when someone's trying to gently say no, maybe they're not being direct? I was watching someone else's webinar and they talked about there's communication styles, like where I grew up in New Jersey, sort of New York area, very direct. You're killing me, right? And then there's other cultures where there's this implied stuff, a little bit of mind reading in it. So we're kind of trying take the mind reading part out here. What does a soft no look like or sound like?
First off, can you hear me again? Okay, cool. So a soft no, I have seen this more in the South, in the Midwest, where people don't like coming out directly and being like, nah, it's, no, thank you. And so they're trying to say no gently to give you the idea that maybe they're not interested in it, whatever it might be. And so it can look like a number of things. If they are leaning away from you while you're talking, if they are, looking over your shoulder or look like they're not totally engaged, then they're trying to indicate they're not interested in whatever you are proposing. If they say things like, oh, I'm really sorry, but I already have plans, but they don't specify what those plans are and they don't offer to find a different time, that may be an indication that they are not actually interested in meeting you at the bar, at the restaurant, at the panel later on. It is a little bit of a deciphering. You have to understand that they're trying not to hurt your feelings by just being like, no. but they are trying to gently say, this is not something that I am interested in right now. And so, yeah, it's things like, hey, that sounds like a great suggestion. However, I have a boyfriend, and so I can't go out with you, or I have a girlfriend, or using other things to indicate that they have some reason not to do whatever it is that you're suggesting. So things like if they turn their back on you and start talking to the person on the other side of them, that they are done with that particular part of the conversation. If, again, as I mentioned, if you come into their personal space and they immediately back away, then they're saying you're too close. I will say that if you enjoy people watching from a distance, you can see this happening in crowds all the time, where you will have this slow motion chase around the room. If the person who is doing the approaching doesn't understand that that person that they're talking to is not okay with having that close of a physical contact, or physical proximity, I should say. If they apologize and then give a reason why they have to leave and then just walk away, that's not an invitation to pursue them and follow the conversation further. They wish to be done with that conversation for whatever reason.
I love the way you put it, that you can watch a slow motion chase. And this particular thing, I've seen this, but with my dog. So I have a little Shiba Inu, she's about knee high. And the first one of these I got was a turn into the SPCA for nipping the baby. So I didn't have any kids. I thought this dog's going to be fine for me, no baby to nip. And someone with children visited, and the dog and them face height, right? The baby is this toddler. It's the same height as my dog. And the dog sees personal space is too much and backs a step away, and baby just keeps going. I'm like, this is where you need to correct the baby and say, don't keep chasing after the dog. But since I know that dog nipped babies, that was me. I picked up the dog. You're out of here, puppy. You're out of here, chow hound. But it's interesting how we don't always pick up on that is a subtle, you're too close to me piece of information. And you had it in the book. You also had this, are they leaning into you, or are they leaning away from you when you're talking to them? Sometimes I want more personal space, but I can't hear them, so I have to do this, which at least tells them that they need to talk louder to me because I can't hear them.
Right, and that you're actually interested in what they're saying, because even if you can't hear them, you are indicating that you want to hear them. Whereas if you are, if I'm leaning into you and you're leaning away from me, that means that I am invading your personal space. And it could be for a number of reasons. It could be that you didn't brush your teeth or you didn't shower. Or it could be that they are, having a personal space moment where they need more space. They need to go find a check-in with themselves for a minute and be okay. And so it is not necessarily something personal about you. It may just be that they're having a moment and they need a moment to have a moment, to check in with themselves. So
yeah, sort of the tip of the iceberg of that there. So we have a great comment in the chat. If we suggest that so-and-so might be a good person for you to talk to about that could also be a soft no. And this thing that you're saying, sometimes we're not good with self-awareness, the ADHD crowd. And so we could be overstimulated, and then we don't realize it until we're in a meltdown. And now what are we going to do for ourselves? It's oops. But if you can notice just a second or two or a moment before it's all the way south, hey, this person's too close, I need more personal space, or something's not right about what's happening here, and I'm gonna go with my gut. You had this one part of the book about trusting your intuition, and although it was very specific to not feeling safe, this still noticing your body can be telling you things. It's hungry, it's tired, using that halt, hungry, angry, tired, what do I need? And also I need fresh air, right? Or whatever that means, or I'm whatever overstimulated or overwhelmed or flooded, whatever, there might be some cue that it's about to, the dam is breaking on that you should just trust yourself and do it.
Yeah, and then that's absolutely true. I mean, your body will talk to you if you listen to it. It's the listening part that's hard. Uh, and that's not just for people with ADHD either. That is, a lot of people have that trouble, but your body will tell you what it needs, particularly in these situations where you're not usually in, and listening to it and listening to what you need is very important. Whether that's, I think in the book, again, as you mentioned, I use that for safety. If you feel like you're being followed, if somebody creeps you out, there's a reason. You may not know you may never know the reason. You should still exit that situation. But it is also true for your body will tell you if you're hungry, if you're about to have a meltdown, if you just desperately need some fresh air for 5 minutes. And just learning to recognize those signs within yourself when your body is telling you that, and then acting on them appropriately. I think those are the two keys to that, is recognizing them and then acting on them. Because I can say, I can recognize that my body is hungry. That's an easy one. I recognize that my body is hungry. If I fail to act on that information, I'm still not doing myself any favors. And ultimately, we are the only people responsible for our own behavior. And so it's important to know yourself and know how you react to things, and then take steps and take measures. And I know that's super hard when particularly your brain doesn't want to cooperate with that and be like, oh, it's noon, I have to eat. I used to have to set an alarm on my phone. And no matter what I was doing, this is the time that I put food in my mouth. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter if I was hungry, if it didn't matter if I wasn't hungry. This is the time I put food in my mouth, because if I don't, I won't remember until much later when I'm having a meltdown. And so taking those steps to do those things and take care of yourself also takes care of your community.
It's a great circle with that, because there's other people around us who are affected by, if it's not going right for us, then it's not going right for them. Sometimes we have travel companions, could be our partner, but it also could be a best buddy, or hey, we're meeting there and then we're gonna offset the expense and share the hotel room. And does that person want to go up to the hotel room for all the way alone time, or is it okay if the two of us are up there and we're in the afternoon grabbing a bite and chatting? So some of these you have to get explicit, right? Is this you're going up to the room to be alone, or is it okay if I go with you? So I was hoping we talk a little bit about traveling companions, if whatever we can do in that arena. So travel companion, right?
Travel companions. I have experienced any number of travel companion situations over the years. I have roomed with people I've never met before. I have roomed with dear friends who we were all at the convention working together. I have roomed with my spouse, who we travel a lot together. And they all require a little bit of different, you handle situations differently depending on the level of how much you know someone. Your hotel room should be a safe space for you to go back to and be quiet in. And as such, when you're traveling with a travel companion, you should have some, explicit things that you've talked about. Are we going to be throwing wild parties in our hotel room at midnight? If so, I need to know that in advance so I can mentally prepare myself for the fact that we're having a wild party in my hotel room. Are we not allowed to bring a single other person into the room other than the 2 people sharing the room? If so, I need to know that in advance too. And it, like, either one of those scenarios is totally fine as long as you know in advance what the expectation is. So having communication with the person that you're traveling with and having good, solid, open communication with them in advance is very important. Are you going to this convention with someone and the 2 of you are literally going to go to every single panel together and spend every evening together and, be attached to the hip? Also totally fine, as long as you know that in advance. And so having those open lines of communication is very important. Also understanding that your hotel room, if you're sharing it with another person, is still a shared space, and being courteous about that space. And that can look like different things. It can look like putting all of your dirty laundry in a single pile in the room instead of spreading it out across the entire hotel room. I know that, like, when I travel alone, it looks like a tornado came through my hotel room because I'm the only one there and nobody else cares. If I'm traveling with my husband somewhere, I try to be a little tidier because it's a shared space and he doesn't want to look at my dirty underwear, sitting on top of a chair somewhere. I don't know. Um, but understanding that, when you are traveling with a companion, a lot of it is talking about it in advance and understanding the other person. If it's somebody that you've known for 30 years, you may not need to sit down and have an exact conversation. If it's somebody that you met through a group and you're both going and you've only met each other in person twice, you're going to want to have a conversation about, well, here's how I do things. Here's how you do things. How are we going to do this together?
You mentioned a lot of things that are really important. I saw there were some women who were traveling and were looking to share a room. And one of the things was, I'm a light sleeper. And I read this and I thought, well, I hope they find someone on their own because I snore. I'm a very loud snorer. And I'd ruin that person's experience. That wouldn't work out. My husband wears earplugs in our home when we're sleeping because I snort so loud. At any rate,
That's something to consider too. If you're sharing a room, like, they make these great headbands, like eye mask headbands these days, where you can play music directly in, like, Bluetooth to your eye mask headset. Is that what you need in order to share a room with somebody so that you can sleep?
Yep.
Now, is that going to help you? Is that going to help them?
And for maybe 20 years I've been traveling with Doug. So Doug and I very often will decide we're going to invite people up as an after party. So we like to keep, when we're traveling together, that room looks like nobody's in it, or we've rearranged it to be more comfortable to have a couple of other people come in and bring a glass of wine with them because we're going to play some music and hang out in the room. So you need to take these things into the land of the spoken to know. Yeah. I don't mind sharing, but I can't be with somebody who's snoring. Or I don't mind sharing, but I don't want a smoking room, for example.
Yep. No, those are all very important. And really, open communication is key for those kinds of things and setting expectations in advance. Like
I had another little note to myself in the questions around traveling with a companion where, there is managing ourselves and we are responsible and accountable, right? We're grown-ups. But sometimes you notice, hey, something's going wrong over there could be my spouse, could just be this traveling companion. Did you eat today? If you notice it's spiraling down, doing a 40,000-foot view, how do I want this thing to go? I'm not going to just go, hey, what do you mean you didn't eat? And I'm not going to make some kind of judgy comment here. The place to be is, how do I want this to work itself out? What's the most optimal way we'll work it out? So, asking in a caring way about what they need, or are they taking care of themselves? And sometimes just getting someone a cup of tea can make the world a difference. Oh, they thought about me for 2 seconds and I was having conference overwhelm, but now I feel loved
better.
or thought about, right? It can really change the tone. Right. So we talked about stress management, what's available and what's your go-to. And there is a quiet room at this conference, and there's also a networking room. So if you're not stimulated enough, you could go into the networking room. And if you need some quiet time, there is that. There are some morning activities for people like yoga and mindfulness exercises. Um,
Oh, that'll be really good.
Okay, we covered those things. And you sort of talked about personal space in different areas. Can we circle back to personal space in line?
Mhm.
It's like one of these things I thought, sometimes I'll get very close to the person I'm behind. I don't want to lose my spot. Sometimes I'm too close. When with their elbows too close to my face, maybe I should step back. That's one of my hints. If they just moved a little bit, would I get it right here? Oh, I'm too close.
That's a pretty solid hint. So personal space in line, I mean, some of this depends on how crowded is the convention or the event that you're at. If it's extremely crowded, there's going to be less personal space overall. But generally speaking, if you're standing in a line, unless you are significantly attached to the person directly in front of you, spouse, partner, best of friends, whatever, you don't want to be close enough that you are physically touching them. You are in a line. Everybody knows you're in a line. That doesn't mean you have to be in a line like this all the way through. Being that close to someone that is not, directly related to you, is generally speaking considered invading their personal space. You do also want to make sure that you're not got a 10-foot space between you and the person. Generally speaking, 6 to 12 inches is probably going to be about the right length. Approximately, if you were measuring, it would be from about the tip of your fingers to about your elbow. Generally speaking, is going to be a good amount of space to where you can be comfortable, they can be comfortable, they're not elbowing you in the nose, you are not elbowing the person behind you in the nose. And this also helps, like if you're having conversation and they turn suddenly to talk to you, you're not going to get smacked across the face or in the head or other bodily parts, depending on how tall you are for, proportional ratios. So generally 6 inches to a foot is going to be a comfortable amount of space between people. If you get more than that, then you may have people trying to get in between the line, which is not what you want. And also pay attention. If the line moves, move with the line. It's great to talk to your friends. A lot of times you're in line, you're having a great conversation with people that you came with, you're distracted, you're having a good time, the line moves without you, suddenly there's a 10-foot gap, and everybody's like, come on, let's go. So you need to kind of have a little bit of awareness as to when the line starts to move. My car has this great feature on it now, where if the car in front of me moves and I haven't moved soon enough, it beeps at me. Unfortunately, people don't have that. So you kind of got to pay attention a little bit to what's going on. If you want to make friends in line, now I don't know about this convention, but I have been to conventions where like you've got a super popular panel coming up, everybody wants to get in, and they're going to close the panel when it gets full. And so people start lining up early. If you need an easy way to make friends in line, bring a box of donuts or cookies and share. Or bagels, depending on the time of day, But talk to the people in line around you. You're all there to see the same event or the same speaker, the same topic. You're going to have commonalities with other people in the line. It's a great time to meet people at the convention. Mm-hmm. Just remember not to be like literally pressed up against them.
Well, I love this place that you come from. If you're in this line, especially for like a panel or and you're waiting for the the thing that's in the room to end so you can go in it for the next thing, of course you're going to have, obviously you're all interested in whatever that thing is. I saw you had some great advice for being at panels, asking questions, and they'll take questions from the audience. Can you say a little bit about the etiquette for that? I liked your one follow-up question part, I thought.
So there's a couple of things. So I've done panels many times. I appear on panels at conventions fairly frequently. So once the panel is done, most panelists want you to hold your questions to the end. If they're okay with having a question mid-panel, they usually say so at the beginning of the panel, but most of the time there's going to be 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. With that, let's start off with the fact that a question starts with who, what, when, why, or how. And if it doesn't start with one of those, it's not a question. So please make sure that if you're asking questions to panelists, that you don't start with a 10-minute story before you get to your question, because you want other people to have the opportunity to ask questions too. So who, what, when, why, or how. And if it doesn't start with that in your head, then reframe your question if you can. And then the other thing is there are probably other people in the audience who would like to ask a question. And so, you may get your question answered and you may think immediately, oh goodness, I have another question based on what they just said. That's cool. Go to the end of the line and wait for your turn to come again to ask that question. Because if you sit there and ask 10 questions, then nobody else gets to ask their questions. Sometimes, depending on the level of people in the room, maybe one follow-up question might be appropriate. If there's not a huge line of people waiting to ask questions, then one follow-up question. No more than one follow-up question without going back to the end of the line to ask questions again. And I'm working under the assumption that they will have a microphone set up so that you can go approach the microphone and ask questions. If you are in a situation where it's just a raise your hand and ask questions, then, raise your hand again. And they will call on you again once they've had a chance to hit some of the other people in the audience questions, but don't monopolize the panel time with just your questions, because other people are there to learn as well.
Yeah, I field questions in this conversations with Melissa, and I've gotten, private feedback. That other person's asking a lot, but you never raised your hand. I can't call on you. I can't ask, you didn't write a question in for me to read. So, but being cognizant, having it in your mind that other people have questions and might want a turn, and to make space for them is a great place to come from. This is more of this awareness growing is kind of what I hear. Even the line conversation that we had just 2 beats back. Hey, if it starts to move and you're looking at your phone and now there's a 10-foot gap, people behind you, right? So there has to be some awareness. And when your awareness isn't working anymore, hey, that's break time right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good sign to say, oh, hey, I need a moment to come back to myself.
Yeah, I like when I get to these places, if usually this ADD conference is in a hotel and I've got a room at the hotel, so I'll get there early enough to see what's the layout for the conference, where's all the food in this hotel, what's the hours of the different restaurants, do any of them appeal to me? There could be only one that appeals, right? That's the only one. But to get a lay of the land, to help yourself when the need arises, to be ready when the need arises. So we talked about going to panel questions, and even in regular sessions, the Q&A part that fits. There was some things in your book about wait staff, Uber, Lyft, hotel staff, the people who are working around tipping, and also around, treating people, some golden rule things, like even your idea of, hey, if we're going to have a whoop-de-doo party, in your book, you're like, oh, make the room ready so that you're not making the maid have to clean up after your crazy party. That's not exactly what she's expecting to be cleaning up after. Can you say more things, some things about hotel staff or people who are working?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So particularly now, particularly after COVID, a lot of hotels are shorter staffed. So you will see things like, there's one hotel that I stay at frequently where they only come in twice a week to clean rooms unless you request it. So that is something to be aware of in general. That the paradigm has changed a little bit post COVID in a lot of places. But hotel staff are people too. They are there trying to do their job, trying to make a living. They are people. They're people. You want to treat them like people. Treat them how you would like to be treated. Don't make their lives harder just because you want to party and have a wild party, or, you know, because you're having a hangry moment. These are people, they're just trying to do their jobs, and they're trying to do their jobs well. So typically speaking, when you are staying at a hotel, if you're staying for an entire week, if you are taking advantage of having somebody come in and clean your room every day and make your bed and replace your towels, then it is customary to leave a tip for the hotel staff at the end of the week. That tip can range from $3 to $5 a day, depending on, you know, what you're comfortable with. You know, it is a tip based on the level of service provided, so keep that in mind as well. But it is customary to leave a tip for the hotel staff. Same thing with your Uber drivers, your Lyft drivers, your bar staff. If you're getting a drink, you know, if you're going down to the bar and having drinks, great, that's fantastic. Generally speaking, it's like $1 to $2 per drink, depending on how fancy the place is. You know, and they do always appreciate tips in cash. It's also totally fine to leave a tip on a credit card. That is also okay, but they also appreciate having cash tips. So when you're traveling to conferences, make sure that you have at least a little bit of small change, fives and ones, to leave tips for people specifically. If you are going to Las Vegas for a conference, please be aware that Las Vegas in particular is an extremely tipping is part of their culture there, and you tip just about everybody in Las Vegas specifically. In other places, it's, you know, your hotel staff, your restaurant staff, your bar staff, Lyft and Uber drivers, but not everyone who works there. But yeah,
It's interesting, but tipping has changed. Like last year, the conference where they had the conference, it was cashless
oh,
at the bar, at the restaurant. They wouldn't take cash. You could leave cash as a tip, of course, because money's still green, right, for people. But and then I had kind of learned, I knew Lyft, right? You can put the tip on there, but if you hand them cash at the end of the ride, you pay for the thing, right? And then you hand them cash, then they're not taxed on it. So they might appreciate actual cash, and then they might not, right? There's a lot of germaphobes these days. That seems like a safe set of behaviors. But I was kind of surprised because I had all sorts of cash and small bills, and I thought I'd be using it. And no, well, cash wasn't so good at that hotel.
that's good to know, actually, because some venues are different.
Yeah.
But yeah, be prepared to tip, whether it's cashless or with cash, particularly for wait staff and service personnel. That is a huge portion of their income. You know, wait staff are paid with the assumption that there will be tips, and so don't expect that they're making $15 an hour, because they are not.
They are not. No, that whole thing is built on that they're going to get tips, that they're not making enough. It's okay. So this is your book, right? Charisma Plus One. If we did not cover everything that's in this book, if you would like to have this book, I have an autographed copy, you can contact Jessica on Facebook. This is her Facebook link. This is her website. These are some of her social media if you would like to follow her. I'd like to swing back because this is not your usual genre that you write in. And I was hoping you'd say a little bit more about the other types of books that you write.
Absolutely. So I do write in a variety of genres. Charisma Plus One was a love letter to all of my convention attending folks. But in addition to that, I do also write steampunk and action adventure, and I also write urban fantasy. All of my current books, you can find links to them on my website. And most of them are available on Amazon. I will say that specifically this one, if you do want a copy of that, contact me via Facebook, because I will give a discount to anyone here who mentions this particular webinar. And in order to get that, you would have to reach out to me on Facebook so that I can do that. But the other book that I have out currently is called The First Sin, and it is available on Amazon via Kindle or paperback. So, and I'm always happy to answer questions about books and talk about writing and social etiquette and all of those kinds of things.
I just love that you've got a, you're more than one thing, right? You could talk about your science fiction and your fantasy writing. We could be talking about this etiquette at conventions. We could be talking about solar, right? We
Could also be talking about solar. That's absolutely true. If you want to know about solar and batteries, hit me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to give it a little bit of oxygen, just a moment. If people have questions that we didn't answer, that you thought we were going to answer, or that you brought with you, I'm going to wait a beat or two to see them in the chat and look and see if I didn't notice anything in the Q&A tool. I'm just going to wait one beat there. And thank you for being so thorough. And we did the first 25 pages of the book, then we went back to, what were these questions? What do we have in my notes? I just know when we take a moment to think about it before we're on site, before we left our house, we just have a fighting chance to do better while we're there. So knowing our preferences and needs, planning a little bit for them, and being able to advocate or speak those things out loud, they make all the difference in how you experience any event, whether it's this conference or you're headed to your local Mensa event, right? You've looked over the timetable, you've thought about, I'm not going to remember to eat. What can I do for myself? I'm traveling with somebody. What do I need to do for me as a person? What do I need to do for us as traveling companions? All these things that you bring to the party for this conversation. I'm very grateful that you're here to talk them out and to share with people what you learned. And I like the con crud. It's like so much better than COVID.
Contract covers everything from tummy troubles through flu, through sinus infection, through, wow, I just feel bad. So don't get the Concret. Not recommended.
Well, there's nothing worse than you're so excited about a thing that you get there and you just, one thing falls apart and the whole thing cascades into, I didn't have a good time on this thing that I spent some money on it, I spent some time on it, and it's not working out for me. Yeah, so anything we can do for our future selves to have it work out.
And this actually happened to me last week, where I had a wonderful convention, like a wonderful convention. And then on the last day, something unpleasant happened. And, I was feeling really down about it. Like, at the end of the day, I was angry about what had happened and stuff. And then I realized that if I didn't moderate myself and get some food, because I hadn't eaten all day, because, that's a thing, that I was going to let that color the entire rest of my convention. And I just had to be like, no, that day, we're just going to set that aside and say, okay, that was a bad day. The rest of the convention was absolutely wonderful. And not letting a single moment spoil everything is really important to our own happiness, and being able to set that aside. So,
yeah. There is a moment as an adult where you can have a clarity of choosing. All right, I could let this ruin everything, or I can notice and address what the thing is, and then choose, consciously choose how it's going to move forward. So it's a great reminder that we are not a slave to the whims of the universe, right? We have some say in how it goes, and speaking for what we need for ourselves.
Very much so.
Oh, we have another great piece of advice in the chat. If you're the type who worry if you turn stuff off, take pictures with your phone. Like, this is did I leave the gas on, people?
That is really a great suggestion. That is a very good suggestion.
Let's take this to the nth degree. You have parked at the airport parking. You can take a picture of your car and where you parked it, so you do not have to remember what level was I on and what parking spot. You can take this picture thing to the nth degree, for remembering things and where did you put things, and for purchasing things. And the more things we take out of having to be remembered here, and they have some other place that they live, the better it is for us. Yeah.
Almost everyone has a cell phone these days, and that camera is super useful.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we look like we're getting to the end. Let's do one other little thing, which is the folks who came at the beginning, and we did that self-check-in. How are we on a scale of 1 to 5? 5's the top, full of beans, energized, ready to go. Buoyant. 1, the other end of the scale, tired, fatigued, out of gas, not ready to go. Maybe, where are we now? Now, I think I came in around a 4. I feel even more, maybe 4.5, pretty jazzed up. So I invite people in the room. You can share it with us in the chat or not, whatever works for you, but to notice. Now, was it how nice this community is? Was it how great this advice was? Right? Oh, look how accessible this is. Just noticing, it helps us to get a better read on what works for us, to notice when it's, oh, that worked. That was good for me. Yeah. Thinking about this ahead of time. Oh, that was so helpful. Yeah. Okay. All right, getting some good nights. I'm going to turn the recording off. Oh, first I'm going to thank Jessica. Thanks, not only for reading this book. As soon as I saw it at the Mensa event we were at together, I was like, ha, ha, ha. I think it was 1.5 years ago, but now you see why I bought it.
Well, and I want to thank you for having me on the show, because this was a lot of fun, and I really hope that the convention you guys are preparing for goes really well, and that everybody here got something out of it. And again, and for Renify for hosting these. So thank you so much for considering me for this.
You're a gem. Everyone's filled with gratitude. You're in the right place when everyone's got some gratitude.